Mastery has a price. Excellence has a cost. And that cost is pain. That cost is sacrifice. That cost is the suffering you are willing to endure for the thing you say you want. Everybody wants to be great, but not everybody wants to pay the price. Everybody wants success, but not everybody wants to suffer for it. And that's why so many people never reach their full potential, because the moment the pain starts, the moment the struggle begins, they quit. They walk away. They tell themselves, maybe this isn't for me. No, it is for you. But the question is, are you willing to go through what it takes? Because let me tell you something, there is no way around it. You cannot be great without suffering. You cannot reach mastery without enduring hardship. You cannot become the best version of yourself without paying the price in blood, sweat, and tears. It doesn't matter if it's business, if it's sports, if it's relationships, if it's your purpose, whatever it is. If you want to master it, if you want to dominate it, if you want to stand among the best, you must be willing to suffer for it. Look at the greatest of the greats, the ones we admire, the ones who changed the game, shifted industry, set new standards. They didn't get there by doing what was easy. They didn't get there by taking shortcuts. They got there because they were willing to endure what others would not. They got there because they stayed when others walked away. They pushed when others quit. They suffered when others found excuses. You want to know the difference between those who are average and those who rise above? It's not just talent. It's not just intelligence. It's not even luck. It's endurance. It's the ability to suffer longer than everybody else. It's the ability to keep going when the pain is unbearable, when the pressure is overwhelming, when everything in you is screaming to stop, but you don't stop. You keep going. And that's what separates the good from the great, the weak from the strong, the ones who dream from the ones who do. See, most people want results, but they don't want the process. They want the rewards, but they don't want the suffering that comes before it. They want to stand on the mountain, but they don't want to climb. But let me tell you something. You don't get the reward without the suffering. You don't get the victory without the battle. You don't get to wear the crown if you weren't willing to carry the cross. You have to ask yourself, what do I want badly enough to suffer for? What do I care about enough to endure the pain, the rejection, the struggle, the late nights, the early mornings, the doubt, the fear, the exhaustion? Because if you don't have something you're willing to suffer for, then you don't really want it. If you're only in it for the easy part, you will never last when the hard part comes. And the hard part will come. This is why you have to shift your mindset. Stop looking at suffering as a punishment. Stop looking at hardship as something to avoid. Suffering is a privilege. Struggle is an opportunity. Because every time you endure, every time you push through, every time you refuse to quit, you are separating yourself from the ones who don't have the endurance to make it. You are rising while they are falling. You are growing while they are staying the same. So let me ask you again, how bad do you want it? How much are you willing to suffer? Because the ones who are truly great, the ones who leave a legacy, the ones who make history, they don't run from pain. They don't avoid suffering. They embrace it. They use it. They let it mold them, sharpen them, refine them until they come out on the other side unstoppable. And that is exactly what you must do, because pain is the price of mastery. Suffering is the road to greatness. And if you are willing to pay that price, there is nothing that can stop you. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. It lulls you into a false sense of security, makes you believe that staying the same is good enough, convinces you that there's no need to push harder, reach further, or dig deeper. But let me tell you something. Nothing extraordinary was ever built in comfort. No great man or woman ever rose to the top by staying in a place that felt safe. Growth doesn't happen where it's easy. Strength isn't built where there's no resistance. Power doesn't develop where there's no struggle. Look around. We live in a world designed to keep you comfortable. Everything is convenient. Everything is easy. You can get what you want when you want it with the push of a button. You don't even have to think hard anymore. Technology does the thinking for you. But what is that ease costing you? What is all that comfort doing to your mind, your body, your spirit? I'll tell you what it's doing. It's making you weak. It's making you complacent. It's making you settle for less than what you were created to be. The most dangerous thing you can do is let yourself get too comfortable. Because when you do, you stop growing. When you do, you stop stretching. You stop fighting, stop pushing, stop becoming more. And before you know it, life has passed you by and you are stuck in the same place you've always been, wondering why nothing has changed. But nothing has changed because you haven't changed. Nothing has moved because you haven't moved. You have to be willing to shake yourself out of comfort. You have to be willing to put yourself in situations that stretch you, challenge you, make you question whether you have what it takes. Because that is where growth happens. That is where strength is forged. That is where you discover what you are really made of. Think about it. When have you ever grown during the easy times? When has comfort ever pushed you to be better? It hasn't. The times that shaped you, the moments that defined you, they were all born out of struggle. The challenges that nearly broke you, the loss, the failure, the rejection, the nights when you cried yourself to sleep, and the mornings when you didn't know how you were going to make it. Those were the moments that built you. Those were the moments that made you who you are. So why are you avoiding struggle now? Why are you running from discomfort? If the hardest times in your life made you stronger, why wouldn't you seek out challenges on purpose? Why wouldn't you make yourself uncomfortable so that when life throws something unexpected at you, you're already prepared? This is why you've got to start doing things that make you uncomfortable. Wake up earlier than you want to. Push your body past its limits. Train your mind to stay focused when it wants to drift. Have the hard conversations you've been avoiding. Take the risks that scare you. Because every time you do something that makes you uncomfortable, you are growing. Every time you push yourself beyond what feels easy, you are leveling up. Every time you suffer voluntarily, you are becoming someone that nothing in this world can break. The ones who rise to the top, the ones who lead, the ones who set the standard, they are the ones who refuse to stay comfortable. They are the ones who seek out challenges, who embrace difficulty, who willingly suffer to become something greater. They don't wait for life to force them to grow. They force themselves to grow. They make themselves uncomfortable so that nothing and no one can keep them from their destiny. You have to decide. Are you going to stay where it's comfortable, where it's easy, where nothing ever changes? Or are you going to step into the fire, embrace the pain, and let it turn you into something unstoppable? Because comfort will keep you stagnant. Comfort will rob you of your greatness. But suffering will set you free. Let me tell you something. Comfort is the biggest enemy of your growth. You don't get stronger sitting in a place where nothing challenges you. You don't get wiser avoiding situations that test your patience. And you certainly don't become the person you were meant to be by running from struggle. Growth demands pain. It demands discomfort. It demands that you put yourself in situations that stretch you beyond what feels good, beyond what feels safe. Because nothing worth having ever came easy. Nothing powerful was ever built without pressure. Nothing strong ever formed without resistance. Look at nature. A tree that never faces strong winds grows weak roots. The first storm that comes along rips it from the ground. But the tree that fights against the wind, the one that bends and struggles, that tree's roots go deeper. That tree becomes unshakable. And you, my friend, if you refuse to face struggle, if you avoid pain at all costs, you will always remain weak. You will always remain at the mercy of life's storms. The problem is too many people want success, but they don't want the suffering that comes with it. They want strength without the struggle, wisdom without the wounds, victory without the battle. But let me tell you, there is no shortcut. There is no easy way. If you want to be great, if you want to break past the limits that have held you back, you've got to make yourself uncomfortable. You've got to throw yourself into the fire and let it refine you. Think about the moments in your life when you grew the most. It wasn't when things were easy. It wasn't when everything was going your way. It was when you were tested. It was when you were pushed to the edge. And you had to decide, do I break or do I rise? Do I give in to the pain or do I push through it? Those moments defined you. And if you're still here today, it means you survived them. It means you made it through, but don't stop there. Because every level of success, every new dimension of power and purpose requires a new level of struggle. Some of you are waiting for life to get easier before you go after your dreams. You're waiting for the conditions to be just right before you take that next step. But let me tell you, waiting will get you nowhere. Because life isn't going to get easier. The world isn't going to slow down and make room for you. You've got to be willing to embrace the difficulty, to welcome the struggle, to say, I know this is going to hurt, but I refuse to stay the same. Easy to stay where you are. It's easy to wake up every day and do the same thing, think the same thoughts, live the same life. But if you do what's easy, your life will be hard. If you avoid discomfort now, it will come back later in ways you never expected. But if you do what's hard, if you challenge yourself, if you stretch yourself, if you willingly suffer for your growth, your life will get easier. Look at the greatest people in history. Every single one of them suffered. Every single one of them endured hardship. Not one of them got to where they were by taking it easy. They made themselves suffer so that life couldn't break them later. They went through pain on purpose so that when real challenges came, they were already prepared. You've got to make a choice today. Do you want to stay comfortable or do you want to grow? Do you want to stay weak or do you want to be unshakable? Because I promise you, every time you step into discomfort, every time you push yourself past your limits, you are becoming something greater. And the world needs the strongest version of you. The world needs the you that has been through the fire and come out gold. The world needs the you that is not afraid of struggle, but embraces it as the price of greatness. So don't run from pain. Don't hide from difficulty. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make yourself suffer, because through that suffering you will find your strength. Life is going to test you whether you like it or not. Hard times are coming. Storms will rise and challenges will knock at your door. But let me ask you this. When that moment comes, will you be ready? When life decides to put weight on your shoulders, will you have the strength to carry it? Because let me tell you, if you wait until hardship shows up to start building resilience, it's already too late. You don't prepare for the battle when the enemy is at the gate. You train before the war begins. You build your endurance before the storm hits. You strengthen your mind, your body, and your spirit before life forces you to. That's why you've got to make yourself suffer on purpose. You've got to choose struggle before struggle chooses you. You have to train yourself to endure hardship now so that when the real trials come, they don't break you, they reveal your strength. If you only do what's comfortable, if you only move when life makes you move, then every difficulty will feel like an attack. Every setback will feel like the end. But when you choose to suffer, when you put yourself through pain before life does, you're in control. You're no longer a victim of circumstances, you're a master of them. Look at the people who are truly unshakable, the ones who stand tall no matter what life throws at them. They didn't get that strength by avoiding hardship. They built it in the fire. They developed it by pushing themselves when no one was watching, by waking up early, by grinding when others were sleeping, by running towards struggle instead of away from it. They made suffering a choice so that when suffering was no longer optional, they were already prepared. See, the problem is too many people expect life to be easy. They expect success to come without sacrifice, without discipline, without hardship. But success isn't given, it's earned. Strength isn't handed out, it's built through the pain you're willing to endure. And if you're not willing to suffer for it, you don't really want it. If you're not willing to struggle for it, you don't deserve it. Because the truth is, the ones who rise to the top, the ones who overcome every obstacle, they aren't necessarily the smartest, the strongest, or the most talented. They're the ones who have trained themselves to endure more pain than the rest. They're the ones who have conditioned themselves to outlast the suffering. You want to be great? Start making yourself uncomfortable now. Start waking up earlier. Start pushing your body beyond what feels good. Start forcing yourself to sit in silence and deal with the things you've been avoiding. Start practicing patience when everything in you wants to react. Because every time you choose discomfort over ease, you're getting stronger. Every time you embrace suffering instead of running from it, you're preparing yourself for the day life decides to put you to the test. Look at athletes. The ones who win championships don't just train when it's convenient. They don't just practice when they feel like it. They push themselves to the limit day after day because they know that when the real fight comes, their preparation will determine the outcome. They suffer now so they don't suffer later. And that same principle applies to every area of your life. If you train yourself to endure hardship now, then when life throws something unexpected at you, you won't fold. You'll stand firm. That's why you can't afford to live soft. You can't afford to let yourself get comfortable. You can't afford to avoid struggle and think that somehow, some way, you'll still end up strong. It doesn't work that way. Growth doesn't come from ease. Resilience isn't built in comfort. You've got to intentionally put yourself through difficulty. Voluntarily embrace struggle, because that is what prepares you for what's ahead. So don't wait for life to get hard before you decide to be strong. Don't wait for the storm to hit before you start training your endurance. Start suffering now. Start choosing the hard road now, because when you do, you won't just survive the battle. You'll own it. Pain is inevitable. Struggle is coming whether you like it or not. You can try to avoid it. You can try to run from it. You can try to pretend that life should be smooth, easy, and predictable, but that won't change reality. Life is going to throw punches. It's going to test you. It's going to bring you moments that shake you to your core. The question is, when that moment comes, will you be ready? Or will you crumble because you never trained yourself to endure? See, too many people live their lives reacting. They wait for hardship to come, and then they scramble trying to figure out how to deal with it. But by then it's already too late. They weren't prepared. They weren't conditioned to handle it. So they break, they fold under pressure. They lose themselves in the suffering because they never built the strength to face it. And that's why you can't wait until life forces you to suffer. You have to take control of suffering. You have to choose struggle before struggle chooses you. Because when you embrace suffering on your own terms, when you voluntarily put yourself through pain, through discipline, through challenges, you take away its power to break you later. Think about it. A soldier doesn't wait for war to begin before he starts training. A fighter doesn't wait for the championship match before he starts conditioning his body. No, they put themselves through pain long before the battle even comes. They train their minds, they train their bodies, they train their endurance so that when the real fight shows up, they don't have to wonder if they can handle it. They know they can. They have already suffered, they have already endured, and because of that, they have already won. This is why you've got to make suffering a part of your life. Not because you enjoy pain, not because you want to struggle for no reason, but because when you choose to suffer, when you willingly embrace difficulty, you become stronger than anything life can throw at you. You become unshakable. You become the kind of person who doesn't break when pressure comes, who doesn't quit when things get hard, who doesn't fold when the weight of the world is pressing down. Look at the people who are truly great. The ones who stand tall, unbothered by what life throws their way. The ones who seem to move through hardship with power, with grace, with control. They aren't that way because they've never suffered. No, they've suffered more than most. But the difference is they chose to suffer before life made them. They conditioned themselves for it. They put themselves through fire on purpose, so that when the unexpected flames came, they weren't afraid. They had already been through worse. See, suffering isn't your enemy. Suffering is your teacher. Pain isn't there to destroy you. It's there to mold you, shape you, refine you. But only if you embrace it. Only if you stop running from it and start using it. The moment you stop seeing struggle as something to avoid and start seeing it as an opportunity, everything changes. Suddenly, hardship isn't a setback, it's training. Difficult moments aren't obstacles, they're preparation. This is why you can't run from pain. You can't avoid struggle, because the more you avoid it, the weaker you become. Every time you shrink back from discomfort, you make yourself more fragile. Every time you refuse to push through, you train yourself to break under pressure. But every time you face suffering head on, every time you choose to endure, every time you embrace the challenge instead of running from it, you become more powerful. You want to control your life? Control your suffering. Stop waiting for life to bring hardship and start making yourself stronger now. Train your mind to push through when you want to quit. Train your body to endure when it wants to break. Train your spirit to stand firm when everything in you wants to collapse. Because the moment you master suffering, the moment you take control of pain instead of letting it control you, there is nothing that can stop you. The reward is on the other side of suffering. Everything you want, everything you dream of, everything you were created for. It's not sitting on the path of comfort. It's not waiting for you in a place where everything is easy, where nothing challenges you, where nothing forces you to grow. No, the prize is only found through the pain. The breakthrough only comes after the battle. The strength is only built in the struggle. See, most people want the reward without the sacrifice. They want the success without the suffering. They want the blessing without the burden. But life doesn't work that way. You cannot have one without the other. You cannot reach the highest version of yourself without going through the fire. You cannot rise to greatness without first walking through the valley of struggle. The problem is too many people give up too soon. They stop when it gets hard. They quit when the pressure builds. They turn back when the suffering becomes real. But what they don't realize is that their breakthrough was just beyond that pain. Their moment was just beyond that struggle. if they had endured just a little bit longer, if they had pushed just a little bit harder, they would have stepped into everything they were praying for. That's why you cannot let suffering make you stop. You cannot let struggle convince you to walk away. You cannot let hardship trick you into thinking that it's not worth it. Because if you quit now, you will never know what was waiting for you on the other side. You will never know what you could have become, what doors could have opened, what blessings could have been yours if you had just endured a little while longer. Look at the ones who have achieved true greatness. Look at the ones who have made an impact, who have changed the game, who have left a legacy. They all have one thing in common. They refused to quit when suffering came. They refused to let pain turn them back. They refused to let hardship dictate their destiny. Instead, they pressed forward. They endured the suffering because they understood that on the other side of it was something greater. You have to develop that same mindset. You have to stop seeing suffering as something to escape and start seeing it as a bridge that leads to the life you were meant to live, a bridge that carries you from where you are to where you were destined to be. A bridge that separates the ones who almost made it from the ones who actually did. So you have a choice. You can let suffering stop you, or you can let it transform you. You can let the pain break you, or you can let it build you. You can let the struggle convince you to quit, or you can let it push you to become stronger, wiser, better. Because the truth is, suffering is temporary, but the reward is forever. The pain won't last, but what you gain from enduring it will. And when you finally reach that other side, when you finally step into everything you've been fighting for, you will look back at every tear, every late night, every moment of exhaustion, and you will say, it was worth it.